My fiancé laughed before a family dinner and said, "Please don't talk too much. Every time you speak, you make us look low class." I just nodded. During dinner, I stayed quiet like she wanted. Her parents kept glancing at me, confused, but I didn't say a word. The next day, when she found out what her father had asked me privately after hearing the way she spoke to me, she didn't say a single word either. I'm Derek, 33, and I learned the hard way that some people don't want a partner. They want a prop that makes them look good. This is about the dinner where I stopped playing that role. I'd been with Catherine for 3 years. We got engaged 8 months ago after what felt like a natural progression. She came from money, the kind of old money family that has summer homes and investment portfolios as casual dinner conversation. I came from a middle-class background. My parents were teachers. I worked my way through college, got a decent job in project management, and built a comfortable life for myself. Catherine always said she loved that I was grounded and real. Looking back, I think what she really loved was having someone she felt superior to. The comments started subtle. Maybe don't mention your student loans at dinner with my parents. You should probably let me order the wine. You're not really familiar with French vintages. That story about your college roommate is funny, but maybe save it for your friends. Each comment individually seemed like helpful advice. Collectively, they built a pattern of her being embarrassed by who I was. 2 weeks ago, we were invited to her parents' house for dinner. This wasn't unusual. Catherine's family did these formal dinners monthly, always at their estate, always with the same rigid structure. Cocktails at 7, dinner at 8, dessert at 9:30. Everyone leaves by 11. I'd been to maybe 15 of these dinners over 3 years. I thought I handled them well. I was polite, asked appropriate questions, laughed at her father's stories, complimented her mother's hosting. But apparently, that wasn't enough. The afternoon before this particular dinner, Catherine was getting ready in our bedroom. I was putting on a suit, the nice one I'd bought specifically for these family events. She was at her vanity, applying makeup with surgical precision. "Derek, I need to ask you something." "Sure, what's up?" She didn't turn around, just kept looking at herself in the mirror. "Tonight at dinner, can you maybe not talk as much as you usually do?" I paused mid-tie. "What do you mean?" "You tend to over-participate in conversations. You tell these long stories and use expressions that are kind of." She trailed off, waving her hand dismissively. "Kind of what? Please don't take this the wrong way." She finally turned to look at me. "Every time you speak at these dinners, you make us look low class. My parents notice. I notice. It's just better if you let me handle most of the conversation." The words hit me like a physical blow. Low class. She'd said it so casually, like she was commenting on the weather. "You think I make you look low class?" "I'm not trying to be mean. I'm being honest. You're wonderful with your own friends and family, but at these dinners, you don't fit the tone. So maybe tonight, just smile and nod and let me lead. Can you do that for me?" I stood there for a long moment, tie half done, looking at this woman I was supposed to marry. This woman who'd just told me my words, my stories, my very way of speaking made her ashamed. "Sure," I said finally. "I'll be quiet." She smiled, relieved. "Thank you. I knew you'd understand." We drove to her parents' house in silence. Well, Catherine talked the whole way about who would be there, what topics were likely to come up, reminding me again not to over-contribute. I just drove and nodded. We arrived at 7 exactly. Her parents' house was one of those places that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Her father, Richard, greeted us at the door. Firm handshake, polite smile. Her mother, Patricia, kissed Catherine on both cheeks and gave me a brief hug. Cocktail hour started. Usually, I'd chat with Richard about business or sports. Tonight, I stood next to Catherine with a drink in my hand and said nothing. When Richard asked me how work was going, I gave a one-word answer. Good. He looked surprised but moved on. Patricia asked about wedding planning. I looked at Catherine and stayed silent. She jumped in enthusiastically, talking about venues and flowers and guest lists. I just smiled and nodded. Dinner was even more uncomfortable. We sat at their formal dining table, Catherine and me on one side, her parents on the other. Usually, I'd participate in the conversation, comment on the food, ask questions, tell relevant stories. Tonight, I did exactly what Catherine asked. I stayed quiet. Her parents kept glancing at me. Her father especially seemed confused. He'd ask me direct questions, and I'd give minimal responses. "How's your family?" "They're well, thank you." "Read any good books lately?" "Not recently." What do you think about this election? Haven't decided yet. Catherine filled every silence I created, talking more than I'd ever heard her talk at these dinners. She was working overtime to compensate for my lack of participation. Her mother looked concerned. Her father looked increasingly uncomfortable. About halfway through the main course, during a lull in Catherine's monologue, her father set down his fork and looked directly at me. "Derek, are you feeling all right? You're awfully quiet tonight." I glanced at Catherine. She was looking at me with this expression that I could only describe as warning. "Don't ruin this. Play along." "I'm fine, Richard. Just listening. You're usually more talkative. We enjoy hearing your perspective." Catherine interjected quickly. "Derek's had a long week at work. He's probably just tired." Her father didn't break eye contact with me. "Is that true, Derek? Just tired?" Something in his tone made me realize he knew something was off. But I'd made a promise to Catherine, in a way. I'd said I'd be quiet. So I stayed quiet. "Yes, sir. Just tired." The rest of dinner was excruciating. Catherine talked nonstop. Her parents looked increasingly concerned. I ate my food, drank my wine, and spoke maybe 20 words total. After dessert, while Catherine was in the kitchen with her mother, her father asked me to step into his study. This was unusual. We'd never had a private conversation in all the times I'd been to their house. His study was exactly what you'd expect. Dark wood, leather chairs, books lining the walls, the smell of old cigars and expensive whiskey. "Have a seat, Derek." I sat. He poured 2 glasses of scotch, handed me one, and settled into the chair across from me. "I'm going to ask you something, and I want an honest answer. Has Catherine said something to you about how you should behave at these dinners?" I didn't answer immediately. Took a sip of the scotch. Considered my options. "Yes, sir." "What did she say?" "She asked me not to talk as much. Said I tend to make the family look bad when I speak." His expression darkened. "She said you make the family look bad?" Her words were that I make us look low class. She asked me to let her handle conversations. He was quiet for a long moment, swirling his scotch, staring at something past my shoulder. Then he looked directly at me. "Derek, I need you to understand something. My daughter can be particular. She's been raised with certain expectations and privileges that have, frankly, made her a bit of a snob. I take some responsibility for that. But what she said to you is unacceptable. Sir, I don't want to cause problems between you and—" He held up his hand. "Let me finish. You've been coming to these dinners for years. You've always been respectful, engaging, and genuine. You tell good stories. You ask thoughtful questions. You treat my wife and me with warmth and interest. Frankly, you're one of the few people Catherine has brought around that I actually enjoy talking to." I didn't know what to say to that. If my daughter is making you feel like you need to be someone else, like who you are isn't good enough, then she's not ready to be married. And you shouldn't marry her. The words hung in the air between us. "I'm going to talk to Catherine," he continued. "Not tonight. Tomorrow. I'm going to tell her what you told me, and I'm going to tell her that this behavior is beneath her and beneath our family. What she does with that information is up to her. But you deserve to know that the problem isn't you, Derek. It's her." We finished our scotch in silence. When we returned to the main room, Catherine and her mother were already there. Catherine looked at me suspiciously, trying to read what had been discussed. We said our goodbyes. The drive home was tense. Catherine kept asking what her father and I had talked about. I told her it was just business, nothing important. She didn't believe me, but eventually stopped pressing. Update 1. The next morning started normally. Catherine had an early yoga class, so she left around 7 a.m. I was still in bed when my phone rang around 9:30. Her father. "Derek, I spoke with Catherine this morning. She's on her way home. I wanted to give you a heads up." "What did you tell her?" "The truth. That you told me what she said to you. That her behavior was unacceptable. That she's become the kind of person who looks down on others, and that it's shameful." "How did she take it?" "Not well. She tried to defend herself, said she was just trying to help you fit in better. I told her that the people worth fitting in with don't require you to change who you are fundamentally. We had a difficult conversation. She left upset. Thank you for telling me. Derek, I meant what I said last night. You're a good man. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise." Catherine came home 20 minutes later. I was in the kitchen making coffee when she walked in. Her eyes were red, makeup smeared. She'd been crying. "You told my father?" He asked me directly. I wasn't going to lie. "You had no right to discuss our private conversation with him. You had no right to tell me I make you look low class." She flinched. "I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? I was trying to help you. Those dinners have a certain tone, and sometimes you don't quite match it. I thought if you toned down some of your stories, your expressions, you'd feel more comfortable. I was comfortable. You weren't comfortable with me. That's not true. Catherine, you told me not to talk because every time I speak, I embarrass you. Those were your words. Your father asked me to be honest, so I was. She sat down at the kitchen table, put her head in her hands. He said I've become a snob, that I'm ungrateful and cruel, that if I can't appreciate you for who you are, I don't deserve you. He's not wrong. She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. Are you breaking up with me? I poured 2 cups of coffee, set one in front of her, sat down across from her. I don't know yet, but I do know I'm not marrying someone who's ashamed of me. I'm not ashamed of you. You literally told me not to speak at family dinner because I make you look low class. If that's not shame, what is it? She didn't have an answer for that. Update 2. The next few days were tense. Catherine tried to apologize, but her apologies always came with qualifications. I'm sorry, but you have to understand. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. If you'd just let me explain. I started really paying attention to how she spoke to me, how she acted around me versus how she acted around others. The pattern was undeniable. Around her wealthy friends and family, she'd subtly distance herself from me, cut me off mid-story, correct my grammar, explain things I'd just said as if I'd been unclear. Around my friends and family, she was different, warmer, more genuine, or maybe just more comfortable because she felt superior in those settings. A week after the dinner, her mother called me. This was unprecedented. Patricia and I had always been cordial, but never particularly close. Derek, I hope I'm not overstepping. Richard told me what happened. What Catherine said to you. It's okay, Patricia. We're working through it. I wanted to apologize. We raised her with certain advantages, and I'm afraid we didn't do a good enough job teaching her to value people over status. That's on us. I appreciate that. I also wanted you to know that Richard and I have always thought very highly of you. You've brought out good qualities in Catherine, or at least you tried to. If things don't work out between you two, I hope you know it's not because you weren't enough. It's because she couldn't see what she had. That conversation meant more to me than I expected. 2 weeks after the dinner, Catherine and I had the final conversation. We were sitting in our living room, the engagement ring she wore catching the light from the window. I think we need to postpone the wedding, I said. Postpone or cancel? I don't know yet. But I can't marry you while things are like this. Like what? I apologized. I explained. What more do you want from me? I want you to actually understand why what you said was wrong. Not just apologize because your father called you out. I want you to see me as an equal, not as a project you're trying to improve. I do see you as an equal. No, Catherine, you don't. You see me as less than. You've made that clear in 1,000 small ways over 3 years, and I've ignored it because I loved you. But that dinner was the breaking point. You told me to shut up so I wouldn't embarrass you. Do you understand how devastating that is? She was quiet for a long time. I don't know how to fix this. Neither do I, which is why we're postponing. She took off her engagement ring and set it on the coffee table between us. I think we both know this isn't a postponement. Maybe. My father was right. I don't deserve you. That's not what he said. He said if you can't appreciate me, you don't deserve me. There's a difference. She left that afternoon, moved back in with her parents, temporarily, while we figured things out. We both knew it was permanent. Final update. It's been 4 months since that dinner. The engagement is officially off. Catherine and I spoke once about a month ago to finalize the split. She'd started therapy, was working on herself, hoped we could be friends someday. I was polite but non-committal. Her father reached out twice. Once to apologize for his daughter's behavior. Once to invite me to lunch, just the two of us, to check in. We had that lunch last week. It was surprisingly pleasant. He's a good man who raised a daughter with blind spots he's now acutely aware of. I haven't spoken to Catherine beyond that one call. I've heard through mutual friends that she's dating someone from her social circle, someone who apparently fits her family's tone perfectly. I'm happy for her, genuinely. She should be with someone who matches what she wants. As for me, I'm doing well. The apartment is just mine now. I'm dating again, slowly, carefully, with much clearer boundaries about what I'll accept and what I won't. The dinner where I stayed silent haunts me sometimes. Not because I regret it, but because it took me 3 years to realize I was with someone who wanted me to be smaller, quieter, less myself. That silence was the loudest thing I've ever said to her. And when her father asked me what she'd said, when I told him the truth, that set off a chain of events that ended our engagement. Not because I was vindictive, but because the truth couldn't coexist with the lie Catherine had been telling about who I was. She didn't say a word after finding out what I'd told her father. Maybe because there was nothing to say. Maybe because she finally understood that the problem was never me talking too much. It was her not listening at all. Edit. People keep asking if I feel bad about how it ended. Honestly, no. I feel relieved. I dodged a lifetime of being told I wasn't good enough in subtle and not so subtle ways. Her father did me a favor by asking that question. Sometimes the kindest thing someone can do is force the truth into the light. Edit 2. For those wondering, yes, I kept the Scotch glass her father gave me that night. It sits on my shelf as a reminder that sometimes the parents are more perceptive than you think, and that respect goes both ways or it goes nowhere.